So, Bill, you work for New York Canals.
I work for New York Canals, the director of marketing, and we run the New York State Canal System and the 57 locks that make it up. It's funny, I've been listening to all the big lake talk, though. I used to have a trolling boat on Lake Champlain, and I want to talk about the canals, but boy, I miss big lake trolling. It's pretty great. I mean, a little different than the Great Lakes, but it's the same thing. You know?
Yep.
Yeah.
But if I mention Lake Champlain, I might as well stay there. I'll give you like maybe 2 minutes on what the canal system is, and then I'll talk about our fishing program that affects Lake Ontario and a little bit of Lake Erie.
Yeah,
sound good?
Yeah, you. So Bill just gave a speech on this, and again, we're at the Greater Niagara Fishing and Outdoor Expo. And then we've got seminar rooms connected, and you guys are just doing seminars. Pete's done seminars. You do, like, everybody in this building basically has been doing seminars. So it's a great show if you want to learn stuff. So Bill, why don't you go ahead and just give us kind of an overview?
Yeah, really good. I mean, we're one of, I think, 220 seminars they're doing, but we also have a booth right over here. But our main job is the Canal Corporation runs the Erie Canal and the New York State Canal System. It's 500 miles of inland waterway, connects to Lake Ontario and Lake Erie. Like the old song, it's Albany to Buffalo, and it's still running. There's the Champlain Canal that's 65 miles long that connects the Hudson River to Lake Champlain, and the Erie goes all the way to Buffalo. But you can go out to Ontario through the Oswego Canal. And then also, not too many people know this, there's a 4-lock canal called the Cayuga Seneca that connects the 2 largest Finger Lakes, and really great trolling there, landlocked salmon, lake trout. And so anyway, we're connected to Finger Lakes too, and all of that makes up 524 miles. It's a heck of a lot of work to keep it open, but 200 years ago, it made this state what it was, made New York State the Empire State. And nowadays it's more recreation, a lot of fishing, tour boats. And we also maintain the old towpath where the mules pulled the barges is now a multi-use trail. It's a part of the Empire State Trail, but it's a canalway trail, and we run that too. So that's basically the canal system. And but I'm here at the fishing show to talk about what we do with the Ontario Lake tributaries. For years and years, we've really only been concentrated on navigation. I mean, we run the canal, and our nearly 200-year-old infrastructure is, it's hard to manipulate. But we put a program together called Reimagine the Canals, and it was kind of like thinking outside the box. What else can we do with the canal? And so we are doing these regulated or more careful releases of our water in the western part of the Erie Canal, and in Niagara, Orleans, and Monroe County, Sandy Creek, Oak Orchard, Johnson Creek, and 18 Mile Creek. We're releasing water in them to keep the base flows going, and we're actually extending the season, and we can mimic a rain event and get them salmon to come in a little earlier.
Can you explain that a little bit better?
Yeah.
The release of the water. And
so the Erie Canal drains into the Lake Ontario, the north-flowing Lake Ontario tributaries, right? And normally we just pulled the plug and drained it when navigation season was over. It was the Erie Canal. Right.
You literally pull the plug on it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I call it pull the plug.
Drop it down to a certain level.
Right. So we, when our season's over, late in the fall, we drain the canal to do a little winter maintenance. We have to fix up the locks. All the infrastructure on the canal is over 100 years old. It was the canal opened in 1918, so we're well over 100 years. But what we started to do was the waste weirs or the gates where we drain it. It's not really a plug; it's a gate that will drain it. We started talking. We got a lot of feedback from the public, and if we're a little more careful and we did a little manipulation to the infrastructure, we can release the water when they need water. So if there's low, it's been a drought in that late fall, we can give them a little needed water. And then during the season, when the salmon and the brown trout and the steelhead are coming in, we can just maintain their flow so there's a good amount of high water. So you don't have to, the fishermen coming from, Ohio, Pennsylvania, or wherever, they don't have a guess and hope that they get good water. We can maintain a really good elevated flow. And then new this year, when we drain the canal, like I said, we're doing it in a kind of a sustained longer period. So it's not this big rush of water. We actually let it fill up again, and we drained it again. So we extended the season for about 2 to 3 weeks in late November, early December.
So you take it down from what to what was used? When you say lower, basically you're going from 12 foot to 4 foot, or Or I know it varies.
Yeah,
but
no.
what would you say is an average?
We get the water in the Western Canal. The western section of the Erie Canal is from the Niagara River, actually. So it is. We maintain 12 feet of depth for the boats for navigation, so that they know they have 12 feet of draft. And it probably goes down to about 2 or 3 or 4 feet.
That low.
Yeah, yeah. And then it doesn't matter for us. In the winter, nobody's on the water anyway. What matters is how we drain it for those Ontario tributaries.
So what tributaries does it affect?
So
Which ones?
the ones we're doing now, and we're looking to expand it. We're kind of going slow and learning our lesson. We got a lot of help from DEC and other partners. The guides in the area, Oak Orchard, Tackle and Lodge, Ron Bierstein really got us really good feedback. But it's Oak Orchard Creek, Sandy Creek, Johnson Creek, and 18 Mile Creek.
Okay.
Those 4 tributaries are getting extra water from the Erie Canal, bolstered flows.
So you could basically mimic a rainstorm and suck those fish into the system.
Absolutely.
when it's time.
Absolutely, yeah.
Right.
And if it's a sustained rain event, we can actually hold some water back.
'Cause I knew they did that at the Salmon River too.
Yeah.
Like they were able to control that flow. It's getting antsy. We've had some drought.
Yeah.
They can control that and get some water moving to get those fish up, and so the anglers can access those fish. Right?
I mean, it starts really with the habitat, the giving them this extra water and maintaining like an elevated flow just makes the fish can come further up the stream. And like you said, if it's low water, we can kind of entice them salmon to come in because we're giving them the water. And it keeps them in there longer, right? So more fish, better fishing conditions, hopefully we're helping out the fishery as well as helping out the fishermen. That's the plan. One more thing we're doing too, it's called the ACE program. It's Access and Conservation Easements. We started giving all these tributaries of water. We thought we were, the hero, and everybody said, yeah, it's really great for the water, but there's not a lot of public access. So we're kind of the PFR program that DEC does. It's similar to that, and DEC is helping us. We put aside $1.25 million for the next 10 years, and we are purchasing land easements from shoreside landowners and for easements. DEC will control the easements, but we're trying to get a little more public access for
That's
fishermen.
exactly what our Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission does in Pennsylvania. They use the Lake Erie permit dollars that are generated primarily for fishing Lake Erie and tributaries only, and there's millions of dollars in that. So they go around, and it's all tributaries, and they try and coax the owners into either signing an easement or purchasing their property because they want anglers to have access to all these fish they're stocking.
That's
Sounds
right.
like it.
We started giving good
You
water.
controlled-
Yeah. I mean, we got great feedback that we were making progress and the water was great. But then everybody said, hey, what's the real problem around here? So we worked out with DEC. I mean, they're a fellow state agency with us, but there's only so much an agency can do. So we're following their lead, and we got a little extra money, and it's helping the areas up there. And it's just an easement. It's still the people's properties.
Right. So we'll just use 18 Mile for an example. So, lately we've been having these bluebird, late summer, Octobers. So is the DEC involved with the timing of you letting the water out as far as do they even look at the forecast?
Really good question. So there was so much more than just, I'm talking about the results of the program, right? But there was a lot went into it. A lot. We had a task force. We had local guides, DEC, scientists, and all give us feedback. Through Brockport, the SUNY Brockport, we did creel studies, and we also, take the temperature of the water. Like none of the, we're not going to put warm water in there and cook the fish, like you said. So there's a lot to go into it before we do a release.
That's an interesting side because, I stream fish myself, and you don't think about that part, right? But you guys are thinking about it, right? There's a method to madness, and you got all this planning and when to pull the plug and why. And here you got the anglers just like, there's a run at 18 Mile, let's go. But all this behind the scenes stuff is
it's
going
interesting
on.
because
it's not natural. In Pennsylvania, we don't have the pull the plug thing, and we have great steelhead fishing, but no one pulls the plug to ignite or run. We wait on God to say, let the rains come and the temperatures fall, and then let the fish run. Where these guys are kind of playing that to some extent. Right?
And we're learning too. It's really, we get great feedback from the fishermen, the public, the tackle shop owners, and that. Some of them are just like, "Where's our water?" And then others say, "Hey, I saw some cloudy water today. Does that mean you're draining the canal now?" We have a website that's dedicated to just the release program, and so we have them on a schedule, and you can go to the website and check it out and kind of follow when we're going to do the releases. Yeah.
Where's that posted at?
So it's on the Canal Corporation website, which is canals.newyork.gov, and there's a little button on there that says Fall Fishing Program, and that's where you can find that out.
And it'll give you the dates you're tentatively going to release that water.
And
so you can almost plan your fishing
you
trip.
can plan your fishing trip like that, yeah. And if you can't plan,
I was going to see maybe he was going to angle you for some secret information.
We cover up the mics like
I thought it was. I was wondering, what are we going to talk about? Canals or
Well, the thing is that was part of the program. First of all, it's for the fish, right?
Yeah.
But the other thing is that being a fisherman, I did the same thing. I'm from the Saratoga area, right? I'd have to drive out to Pulaski or Oswego, but you're hoping you get a good flow, What we're trying to do is a little more predictability where anglers don't have to guess.
It's a busted trip, obviously, if that doesn't happen.
Yeah. And Mother Nature's not always cooperating when, it was raining like crazy last fall, so we had to hold back a little bit. When they need the water, we have it for them. And then at the end of the season, we get to extend the season for a few more weeks because we drain it nice and slow.
Are these low water levels that we have now, like Ontario, really impact any of this because it's all south of it?
So yes and no. So that it does affect us because the canal system is made up of 7 rivers and 5 lakes. So there's a lot of water and a lot of water flow in different ways, and it's a lot of water management. So any difference or Mother Nature or events really affects what we have to do, and it's a constant game or battle, if you will, to run the canal system. Yeah.
Sure.
So you talked about working with the DEC on this, and for those of you maybe from the Midwest, DEC in New York is essentially what we would call a DNR. So that's basically what it is. But who else are there? Other partners involved? Maybe some nonprofits or anything like that you're working with on this project?
So really good question. So we just started to kind of reach out to those groups, Trout Unlimited and that. And one, kind of educating what we're trying to do, and then also saying, hey, what else can we do, or how can we do it better, or give us the feedback. More feedback we get, the better we can tweak the system. And there's more tributaries out there we can affect. I mean, the canal system isn't going anywhere. It's 200 years old, great for recreation. Commercial shipping still goes on it. But I look at it as like another utility for the canal, that this 200-year-old infrastructure is actually affecting modern day businesses, right? And helping the fishing today, right? So, but it's DEC, it's the local public, and we're just starting to get into those groups, the local Trout Unlimited, the statewide group, to get more feedback and get the word out what we're doing, and to get, they'll know more of the landowners than we will. I mean, we got a big job just running the canal, and even though we got the money set aside for the ACE program, I think Trout Unlimited and those type of groups are going to help us get the word out that, hey, you got a little piece of land, and can you help us out?
Yeah. So go ahead, Pete.
I'm curious, how many vessels navigated the Erie Canal like last year?
So we do a traffic report and our lock tenders. I mean, there's 57 locks on the system. There's 35 on the Erie Canal. So I can look in our system and see how many just came to the Erie Canal. I think there were just up over 70,000 lockings last year. That's how many times the gates open on our locks. So
that's per lock.
Well, yeah, that's all the locks combined, right? So every time the lock opens, we count that as a locking, right? So you could have one fisherman going back and forth in between a couple locks, account for a lot of them. But so we don't know the boat count on there, but it's pretty darn busy. There's never, you're never really gonna have to wait too long to get in or out of a lock, but it's an interesting system because you'll go for stretches where you don't need a lock. There's no elevation change. And then you'll go where there are 2 or 3 locks to get up over a hill or get down a hill. So, it's hard to say how many boats go through.
What's the cost to go through the Erie Canal?
Yeah, so the canal system is free.
Okay.
We used to have tolls years ago, but we're run by the New York Power Authority now that has 3 hydroelectric power plants on the system. And we found out when we took the tolls off, boating spiked a little bit. So it's free, it's on demand, and you can you'll open the lock for just one kayak, several boats, or any boat up to 300 feet. All our locks are 300 feet long and 45 feet wide.
Okay.
And it's lock is, if you've never been through a lock, it's Leonardo da Vinci's invention, 500-year-old technology. It's all gravity, no pumps or hydraulics. Boat comes in, we pull the plug and lower them down, or we take the water from the higher elevation and it fills up from the bottom, and it's an elevator for boats.
I've only gone through the Welland Canal, but
same,
several times.
Yep, same. So now that lock is what it's maybe 3-4 times the size of our locks, but it's the same principle. It's gravity.
Same way.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. They're impressive. Like if you go through the Welland Canal, I mean, there's a lot of water.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, when they drain the plug, there's a lot of water coming in there.
Our locks are they're 300 feet long and 45 feet wide. So every 10 feet is 1 million gallons of water. So if we have like in Lockport, New York, the first lock you'll hit from Lake Erie, it's a 220-foot lock. So that's 5 million of water to put you through. But again, it's water from Niagara River, and we're just putting it back in the canal. It's efficient.
So we're talking about a system that's 200 years old. You guys just started this fishing program recently. Where do you see the future of the canal system in New York? Where's it going?
So I know you're in a good business. So it's a great question. So we're actually coming up on the canal, the Erie Canal's bicentennial. It opened in 1825 and it's been running continuously ever since, right? So the World Canals Conference is coming to Buffalo in 2025. And we'll have kind of that world stage to kind of show off and talk about our birthday and talk about all the history. But really, we're kind of looking forward on what we can do. What the fishing program is a really good example of how we're using the old infrastructure for something new. And that's where we're going. It connects Lake Champlain and the Hudson River and the Atlantic Ocean to the Great Lakes, right? Water's a pretty darn good resource. So we're looking, sustainable practices, hydroelectric power. There's 27 hydroelectric power plants on the canal system. And so we're really looking forward. I'm a marketing guy, so I don't really know everything that we're doing. I just talk about the successes. But our program, Reimagine the Canals, and our partners are really looking forward to the next 100 years. And I see it as, big on recreation. The tourism just grows on the canal system all over. It's such a different system. The Champlain Canal and the Southern Adirondacks is so much different than the Mohawk Valley, which is so much different than the Western Canal out in this area, right? So there's a lot of possibilities for it.
Very good. Bill, appreciate you coming on. Was there something you wanted to talk about that we didn't ask you?
So I wanted to say, is it Wisconsin? Are you from Wisconsin?
I'm from Wisconsin. Yeah. That's correct.
So it's funny. When I took this job, I never, what does Wisconsin have to do with the canal, right? But years ago, iron ore and products from Wisconsin came down through the Great Lakes and came out through. We'd see boats now from Wisconsin still on the system that are doing the Great Loop, and it's pretty cool. We're connected with Wisconsin. I'm from Albany, New York, and I work on the Erie Canal. Like, what would be our connection to that? But the Great Lakes are there, and we're part of them. So I'm glad to be on your show, and thanks for letting me talk about our programs.
Yeah, thanks for coming on. It was really interesting. Yeah. And I told Pete, I'm like, this guy's talking about tributaries. I know that was going to kind of scratch his itch. He likes talking about the trips.
Well, it's like, boy, we're going to have to work for some questions here, but it was great, actually. This was very informative.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And I tell you, and it's the opposite for me. I want to go back to Lake Champlain and start trolling again.
I'd say this stuff all day, but, repetitive. This is old news, but it was good news. So what's your biggest salmon? I got to ask you one fishing question. What's the biggest king salmon you caught in Lake Ontario or a tributary?
So
no fish stories.
Actually, the biggest salmon I ever caught was out of Oswego River.
Okay.
I mean, Lake Ontario still, but geez, and it's going back a few years. But I remember I had green line on. I had the fluorescent line because my eyes were bad. And I was walking back with that fish, and then I had another one on, and I could hear, there's that guy with the green line again. Everybody hated me, but it was a big king. I mean, it's maybe 30 pounds or something like that. But we were hitting everything that day. It was on one of those days where the light switch went on and everybody's got it on. But that was probably my best day on the river. But thanks for asking that. I'm glad I got that. Really good to meet you guys. Thanks so much.
Take care.